Okay. Okay, so now that person's going to have no idea about me, but you'll fill them in. they'll get to know me. So so ask a lot of questions. That we read in this text called Pirkei Avot, which is a wonderful text of wisdom, Jewish wisdom. Who is wise? The person who learns from everyone. And also, lo habaishan lomed, the person who is embarrassed doesn't learn. So never, ever, ever hesitate to ask a question. I love your questions. I want your questions. One of my favorite all-time stories is about this guy named Isidore Rabi, who was a Nobel Prize winner in physics. And when they asked him what was the biggest influence in his life that led him to become a Nobel Prize winning physicist, he said it was his mother. So they said, well, what did your mother do that was different from every other mother? And he said, well, every day when I came home from school, my mother would ask me, what did you learn in school today? And so I learned from that the way you learn is by asking questions. So you have a copy of the syllabus. I'm going to be mostly teaching, but this class is also co-sponsored by Temple Kol Ami, Rabbi Schneider, Temple Solel, Rabbi Steele, and Congregation Beth Israel, Rabbi Mason Barkin. So each of them will also be rotating in to teach 2 classes. So I'll be teaching the majority, and they will be rotating in. If you are thinking about converting, so I want to say a couple of things about that. First of all, there's no pressure to convert. You could take this class, you can take it again, you could take it as many times as you want, and the purpose of the class is to learn. If you decide at the end of it that you're interested in converting, that's great. But one of the things that I love about Judaism, one of the many things I love about Judaism, is that we don't have a sense that you have to be Jewish in order to be saved. In fact, just the opposite. Judaism teaches, quote, the righteous of all faiths have a share in the world to come. So, in fact, there are 613 commandments in the Jewish tradition, and we have 7. I don't know if it's in today's handouts, but we have 7 what we call Noahide laws that were given to Noah in the Bible, who was not Jewish, that we think are the foundation of a civilization. But if you do the math, why would you want to take on 606 extra commandments if you can be a good, decent person with only 7? That said, we of course welcome people who choose to join the Jewish people, but I just want you to know that there's no pressure. If you are thinking about converting, you want to have a sponsoring rabbi. So we'll see what congregations people are connected to. If you haven't connected to a congregation, I strongly recommend, and actually I strongly recommend for everyone who's in this class anyway, that you drop into services at all 4 of those synagogues at least one time to get a little flavor of what they're all like, because different synagogues have different flavor, different identity, different sense of community. And you want to find the place where you feel comfortable at home, where you like the other people, you feel an affinity with them, you feel welcomed, the services are meaningful to you, you appreciate the values and teachings of that rabbi. So check it out. All 4 of these synagogues are affiliated with the Reform movement, with the URJ, the Union for Reform Judaism. So that's why we are able to be together in co-teaching this class. Let's see. And the question, would you be able to tell us again which 4 synagogues? Just I'll put them up in the chat. Temple Kol Ami, Congregation Israel, Temple Solel, and I am from Temple Chai. So you've got them all in the chat now. And, you know, one thing to also think about as you're looking at synagogues is geography, because you want someplace that you can get to relatively comfortably so that you're not, you know, when God willing, we're through this whole COVID thing and everything is in person on campus, you don't want to not participate in something because it's so far to drive. I don't want to go, you know. So that might be a factor too, although I was talking to a couple earlier who are finishing the intro class and are starting the adult B'nai Mitzvah class at Temple Chai, and they live in Maricopa, and they come to Temple Chai from Maricopa. And actually I was at a congregant's house today who lives up by Dynamite and Pima, and that's a good 35-minute drive. So, you know, I guess it depends how you feel about driving too. I would prefer to never get in the car if I didn't have to, so. Good. So that said, I think that's my introduction. So what questions do you have already? And you could just raise your hand or talk or do the, you know, the formal hand signal, whatever you like. Or put a question in the chat. I answered all your questions. That's amazing.
I do have a question.
Okay, please. And your name is?
I'm Kyle.
Kyle. Hi, Kyle.
What sort of services or opportunities at Temple High or other?
So Temple High, we live stream all of our services. So you can go to templehigh.com and we live stream them on Facebook, on the Temple High Facebook page, and on the internet at templehigh.com. Right now we're doing everything virtually. So we're having bar and bat mitzvahs. I think we're holding them like outside in the courtyard, but the Friday night service, the main service at Temple High is the Friday night service, and it's at 6:15 p.m. So 6:15 to approximately 7:15, and just log on in either of those places and you're invited and welcome. And I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks, we'll be back in person. In fact, while we are meeting right now, we have a COVID task force of physicians and our temple leadership, and they're meeting right now. It's like a constant process of updating. We were in person, and then a couple of weeks ago, we pulled back to virtual again. And also we do put out on our email, we have a weekly email that puts out all of the events going on in the synagogue. And I will share in the chat my email address if you don't have it already. And if anybody wants to be on that email distro list so you can see what all is going on, just drop me a note and I will make that happen. Good. Thank you, Kyle. What other questions do folks have? Okay, so I am going to call on you in how I see you on my screen. And I'm going to ask you to share your name. If there's two of you, both of your names. If you're connected to a synagogue, what synagogue that might be. And one or two interesting facts about you that could be your job, your family, where you're from, travels, interests, whatever you feel like sharing something interesting about you. And then I'm very also want to hear what is your hope, your dream, your vision for this class in particular? What brings you here right now? And in fact, I'm just rethinking. I think I have my distro list of who all is supposed to be in this class. It might be easier for me to go through it that way. So is Ali Romo here? Hi, Ali, how are you? And who is this person that is with you?
This is my husband, Zach, joining us tonight as well.
How do you spell your name, Zach?
Z-A-C-H.
Z-A-C-H. Okay. Ali and Zach, tell us everything we need to know.
Okay, I can start. So Ali Romo, she, her pronouns. I'm looking at my list of your questions. And so no, we're currently not connected to a synagogue. However, we're not too far from you, actually. We're right by Cave Creek and Peoria. So we're fairly close. But otherwise, interesting facts. I guess I would say I'm a social worker by trade, but I am actually working in the sustainability world now, which has been really cool and a lot of fun. And then what brings me here is that on my father's side, he is Jewish, but was disconnected from his faith. And so a lot of our family is starting to reconnect to this side of our identity, and I'm excited to learn more and explore.
How interesting. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in St. Louis.
Excellent. And Zach, anything to add?
Yeah, sure. I'm an Arizona native. We met in St. Louis, and I guess for me, as far as faith and kind of why I'm here, I grew up completely agnostic household, which is a little unusual, I think. But I hear it doesn't disqualify you from being Jewish necessarily. So I'm interested in learning more and supporting my wife in her journey here, and just, yeah, seeing if this can be a fit.
Lovely. Ashley Bleicher. Is Ashley here?
I am. Hello. Hi. So yeah, my name is Ashley Bleicher. I am not connected with any synagogue. Just kind of like Zach said, I was raised agnostic. My parents are in an interfaith marriage. I'm sorry. So my dad is also Jewish. My mom's Christian, and they raised my brother and I agnostic. So we could choose our own religion later if we chose to. And I've explored a little bit of Christianity, but as a gay woman, Christians aren't all that welcoming all the time. So that's a pretty isolating religion to be a part of. But from different research and stuff like that, I saw Temple High came up a lot as being very gay friendly and things like that. So that appeals to me a lot, because religion, the idea of religion appeals to me. I just haven't found one, I guess, that accepts me as entirely as who I am. So part of that has to do probably with the fact that I spent quite a bit of time living in Jackson, Mississippi. So that's quite a different area, a little not quite as progressive, I guess I would say. Other interesting facts, I play roller derby and I teach middle school science. So I spent a lot of time with 12-year-olds, which can be pretty fun.
Roller derby, that is cool.
Yeah. But yeah, my hope for this class, like I said, it would be great to have a connection to a religion. So I'm hoping that this might be a better fit than Christianity is for me. And I also would love to, I love my grandmother. She's passed on now, and she was very religious, like a very religious Jewish woman. So I feel like I would be closer to her and learning more about her faith, which I like as well.
Nice. Well, I can definitely reiterate that Temple High is very gay friendly. Our senior rabbi, Mari Chernow, was gay. She just left after 18 years. And Cantor Ross Wollman has been the organizer for the Jewish presence at the Pride Parade over the past number of years. So
yeah, I saw that. I'm really excited.
the president of our shul is gay also, just occurs to me. So yeah,
Awesome.
very comfortable place. Becky Bigler-Smith? Not here. Okay,
Nope.
good.
I'm here.
Oh,
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay. Hi, Becky.
Hello. So my name is Becky, and I'm not connected at all to any synagogues. My father's side is 100% Jewish. My mother's side was Christian. So I'm very excited to learn about my heritage, very, very excited. I think that's it.
That's
Oh,
amazing. What you all have in common.
And my hope is to learn about where my family came from when they crossed over through Ellis Island and came into the States. So I'm just super excited. I have 5 boys and I've been married for almost 20 years.
5 boys.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. How old are they?
The oldest just turned 30. He lives in South Carolina with his girlfriend. And then my next is 27, 26, 18, and 16.
Oh my God. What was that like? You got to tell us a little
It's so fun. When they're all home for the holidays, it's just a blast. And when we've had all 5 live at home at one time, when the bigger boys were younger and my younger boys were infants, it's chaotic. But you know what? I love cooking for 7. I love everything about my whole family. It's just wonderful. We're very close.
That is.
And I'm an only child and an only grandchild on both sides. And I don't have all these kids. So I'm super excited.
Any grandchildren yet?
No. My oldest son, again, lives in South Carolina with his girlfriend. They're talking about getting married, but nothing so far. So no grandkids, not that I know of, at least.
Well, with 5 of them, my goodness.
I know. So thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, glad to have you. Brett Lebreau.
Hi, I'm Brett Levro, and this is Nani.
Oh, hi. Okay, yes. And now I see you. Okay, great. Hi. Brett Nani. Okay.
Yeah, we're not connected to a synagogue at all. I, from what I know, have no one in my family that's Jewish, going back forever, as far as I understand. But I've always been around lots of Jewish people, and I've been to Temple High many times already, and I've always kind of felt drawn to that, and so that's kind of interesting how I ended up in here. But there's that. And then as far as an interesting fact about myself, I suppose, I mean, that could be it, but I also work in sports marketing, so that's fun and never a dull moment. And yeah, I just hope to learn and understand a little bit better everything I can for now. And what about you?
My name is Nani. In Temple, my Jewish name is Yoheved. I actually was raised Jewish, but became disconnected due to the death of my family. So I have always lived a semi-Jewish life, but not really religiously. So I'm coming back to the religious side of it. I grew up going to Temple Beth Shalom in Seattle, a conservative shul, except the conservative kind of way of life no longer fits me. So I'm looking for a Reform synagogue.
Excellent. Good. Glad to have you. Is Charlie Summers here? No. Okay. Emily Combin? No. Eva Janata?
Hi.
Hi. Okay. Eva is here.
I'm not connected to a synagogue, and I was raised kind of culturally Christian, but not super practicing. And I've been drawn to Judaism for a really long time, since I was pretty young, elementary school age. And it dawned on me recently that you can take a class for that. So that's why I'm here. And some interesting facts about me. So I would say my top 3 hobbies are reading romance and fantasy novels, weightlifting, and doing 1,000-piece puzzles.
Those are some interesting hobbies. Did you grow up here in Phoenix?
No, I grew up in Maryland and I moved here in 2017 from Maryland with my partner, Steve. And my hope for this class is to learn more, like more formally. I've learned a lot on my own and through conversation, but to learn in a more structured way about Judaism and to see how it resonates, because I, from a young age, kind of felt the absence of a spiritual community and practice in my life. And so I'd be curious to see if this one feels right to me.
Okay, great. Jacob Pierce. Jennifer Cox. Kyle.
She's here, but she's kind of not here. She had to go pick someone up. So she texted me.
Jennifer did?
Yeah.
Okay, who's talking?
Oh, Willie.
Willie.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, I see. So Willie and Jennifer, you're connected?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
She's my mom.
Oh, okay. Well, let's move to you next then. Tell us what's bringing you and your mom here.
So my mom was raised Catholic, but part of that was always her grandfather came from Ireland, and he always assumed Catholicism was the oldest religion in the world because that's what he'd been told. And when my mom pointed out Judaism supersedes Catholicism, it broke his heart. My sister converted to Judaism, and she did that at a pretty young age. And I had always sort of looked a little bit into every world religion I could, and I found Judaism was the most appealing to me as well. I forget what synagogue my sister goes to, and I feel like a rube for not remembering, but she sent all of her kids to Temple High for daycare and stuff. And my mom worked watching the babies for a while there.
Oh, how cool. All right, good. Yeah, it's a fantastic preschool. My grandkids have all been there, and I've got one there now, and it's a wonderful place. Kyle Balthazar. No, Kyle?
Yep, that's me.
Okay. And did we already talk to you?
We have not. I
No,
asked a
okay.
question.
Hi, tell me about your last name? That's an interesting last name.
Balthazar.
Yeah.
We have actually done an ancestry test, and we found it's come from most likely the like somewhere Scandinavian / northern Germany. So that's where
It's really interesting because there's a very famous Spanish Balthazar, and I always assumed, unfortunately, he was kind of a dictator. I always assumed it was Spanish.
I think the name Balthazar comes from one of the three wise men also. So that's where a lot of people also hear
Yeah,
it.
I knew it like has this familiarity, but I couldn't put my finger on what it is.
Yeah. We're the people of myrrh. Yeah, we brought myrrh.
Uh-huh.
But-
Great. And who is sitting with you?
This is my fiance, Rachel.
Uh-huh. Oh, Mazel Tov. When are you guys getting married?
About a little less than a year from now, January 13th of 2023.
Very exciting. Where's that going to be?
In Colorado, in a small ski town called Durango.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Durango is famous too.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be interesting in January.
It'll be fun. We went up this past couple weeks, kind of see how it is, and there's lots of snow, lots of skiing, but she really wanted a white wedding, so she gets what she wants.
He likes Durango too. It's not just me.
Okay, good. Well, tell us about yourselves, Kyle and Rachel.
Yeah, so we're both recent graduates from ASU. I graduated computer science, and I'm a software developer right now in the Valley. We both grew up in the Valley. I was raised non-denominationally, really. My mom is somewhat spiritual, but we never really went to church that often. She's more Lutheran than anything else, but we never really practiced that much. And I'm kind of joined this class because Rachel is Jewish, and I'm kind of exploring the option of conversion, or I'm just starting on a path to see where it goes and to explore my own kind of sense of spirituality with Judaism, as we also have been dating for quite a while. And so I have been experienced her family's cultural affiliation with Judaism. And I like it. I like the familial lifestyle.
Yeah, that's nice. Where's your family, Rachel?
I am from Gilbert, but nobody's in Gilbert anymore. So they're spread out. I've got grandparents on 7th and Northern, and then we're on Scottsdale and Frank Lloyd Wright. So they're just sprinkled around.
Good old Arizona.
Pretty much.
Mhm. How long have you been dating? You said you've been dating a long time.
This has been over 8 years. Yeah. And
That
this
is-
only
that
happened
is a-
last month.
That is, oh, you just got engaged.
Yes.
Oh, well, mazel tov again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Very exciting. And what else would you like us to know about you, Rachel?
I think my uncles were bar mitzvahed at Temple High, but nobody has been practicing since they were kids. And that was 40 years ago. So really in the beginning, I was like, I'm going to be the golden child. But then ever since then, it's just been like, this is actually a large part of my identity. And growing up in Gilbert, I didn't have any other connections, no Jewish friends anywhere. So for me, it's as much of a learning opportunity as it is for Kyle, but I think a little bit deeper for me since I was active with Hillel. I went to Israel on the birthright trip and just am finally taking the time to do a deep dive.
Nice, good. All right. And if you have any questions about your wedding planning, you just let me know. We will have a class on the Jewish wedding, the life cycle as part of our curriculum.
We absolutely will.
Yeah, Michaela Clausen.
Hi.
Hi.
Everybody. Yes, Michaela Clausen. Hi, all. I am not associated with a synagogue here. I am joining the class as a recommendation with Eva and to support her here. So she asked me first to kind of be supporter, and then also, yeah, it just seemed resonant reading through everything to learn more. So background, I've been in Phoenix almost 15 years now, but grew up in a small town in Nebraska, was raised in a extremely conservative environment in a like Christian household that is very Lutheran, like Reformed Lutheran. Yeah, so lots of church on Wednesdays, Sundays, prayer groups, all the things. So I would say that it's probably good for everybody to know that I have some like wounds around religion. As soon as I went to college, I really broke from that faith, and it just never resonated with me. It felt very harsh and very discriminatory, very anti-woman, it was awful. And so my family and I still go to blows a little bit, but in my wise old years, not there yet, I think that I've made some peace around understanding that religion is not bad as I've like categorized it when I was younger. And I feel like I'm open to exploring just more around, I think anything that I've read more from like an academic lens around Judaism has really been resonant with me. Like it's resonated in a like positive way with me. I also am an astrologer. And so I feel like there is like some interesting ties with the history of astrology and the history of Judaism that just feels very like, I don't know, there's some intersection there that I feel like I want to explore. So yeah, I mean,
that's amazing. You're an astrologer. So I don't know if you were on when we started off, and I mentioned that I was widowed after 29 years of marriage, and my deceased husband was a professional astrologer.
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. I was coming from a different call. I apologize for being late. So
No worries. Yeah. So, yeah, astrology is one of those things that, there's such a duality of Jewish perspectives. There are those who like totally dismiss it, and yet there's so much within Judaism that reflects astrological perspectives. In fact, I'm just going to pull out from under my desk here. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, Michaela. This is the floor of an ancient synagogue in Israel. You've seen this before.
Well, I'm reading some older texts and exploring that. Sorry, we're derailing the call. I apologize, but that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's from, oh yeah, no, that's fine. That's from
Don't apologize. This is fascinating. As an artist, I'm really into the mosaic work here.
Yeah, so this is from the Beit Alpha synagogue in Israel, 2,000-year-old, or 1800-year-old synagogue. And you can see the floor is astrological. And there is a lot of, we'll talk about the term midrash. There's midrash is like the Jewish folkloric tradition. And there's a lot of very interesting midrash that expresses an astrological perspective. So yeah, if you're interested in that, you'll have a good time exploring. Okay, here's a name that I am at risk of not pronouncing properly. Nanashani Cavalier.
That's actually me. Yeah. My whole name is Nani Shanae.
Nani Shanae. How do you spell that? Because I'm wondering if I have it right here.
Nonishneey.
Say that one more time.
Nonishaney.
Yeah, okay, it's right on my document. Okay, here we go. Olivia Johnson.
Hi, that's me.
Hi, Olivia.
Yeah, so my name's Olivia and this is my fiance, Shannon. We currently aren't affiliated with a temple, but we are being sponsored by, or I'm being sponsored by Rabbi Linder. And Shannon's already Jewish. He grew up in a Jewish household, but we became engaged on October 1st, and I grew up Christian. So it's super important for him and his family that we raise our kids Jewish, and obviously then I have to be Jewish. So, but I am very excited for this process. I grew up in a very Jewish community, and all my friends growing up were Jewish, and I always really enjoyed their religion and just how religion brought, my friends and their families together all the time. So I really enjoyed that. And I think I also, have my own feelings about religion growing up. It was very, when I was growing up with Christianity, there was this stigma around it that if you were gay, it was, a sin and all these things. And I really disagreed with that. I felt that was not what religion stood for at all. I felt that it should be more accepting. And so I find that Judaism does a really good job with that. And so, yeah, I'm very excited, and we are getting married on October 1st. So 1 year from when we got engaged. So, yeah.
Beautiful. And Rachel, Harfst. How do you say your last name?
Just smush all the letters together.
Harfst.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So we have two Rachels then. We have Kyle and Rachel, and we have Rachel Harfst. Or is that the same? That's the same Rachel.
That's just me.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Good. So is there anyone I haven't called on? Wonderful. Good. Any questions?
Just Shannon Trieger. He's also signed up for the class, my fiance here.
Yeah, right. But have we talked, Shannon?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't said anything about myself if you want to hear.
Are you kidding? I want to.
So I'm from, well, I was born in LA. I was raised in Arizona, raised Jewish. I actually got bar mitzvahed at Chabad. So my grandfather and some of my mom's family is Orthodox, but my mom and dad aren't very religious. So I never really connected with being Orthodox. And so I'm pretty excited to see this type of Judaism and experience it.
Wonderful.
And learn more through your class. And yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. And I guess some of the hobbies that I enjoy, I'm a pilot. That's more of like a hobby, not a career. And I like to golf and travel.
I live on the Stone Creek Golf Course. I don't know if you've ever played it.
Yeah, I have. I definitely have. I played a lot of the courses in this area, and I live near the Kierland Golf Course.
Nice. What else have we missed? Who else have we missed? All right, good. So on to our topics for this evening, the calendar. First of all, to understand a little bit about the Jewish calendar. The Jewish calendar is a lunar-based calendar with a correction introduced for the 11-day difference between the lunar and the solar calendars. So the Jewish month begins with the new moon. And in the ancient world, before people really were able to predict with accuracy when the new moon would appear, they would wait in Jerusalem for 2 witnesses to actually see the new moon. And then they would come to the Sanhedrin, which was the Jewish court at the time, and they would attest that they had seen the new moon, and they would light a bonfire on a hill. And then the next village that saw the bonfire would light it. And that's how the word would go out to the outlying communities that the new month had officially been designated. The new month had officially begun. So the Jewish holidays, as you get to experience the Jewish calendar, and some of you are connected with Jewish families, so you probably have been, for example, to a Passover Seder. So Passover takes place, the Hebrew date of Passover is the 14th day of the month of Nisan. So the 14th day of the month is always going to be the full moon. So the Jewish holidays are very connected to the cycles of the moon. The new moon is the beginning of the new month, as I said, the full moon. So in the fall equinox is the holiday of Sukkot that we'll study about, the fall harvest festival. Passover, which celebrates the Exodus, is on the full moon of the spring equinox. And Hanukkah, which you are probably familiar with just because it's one of the best known Jewish holidays in contemporary America, occurs on the 25th day of the month of Kislev in December. So if you think about all of these holidays being connected to these natural cycles. So what's the theme of Hanukkah? Lighting light at the darkest time of the year. So if the calendar were to shift by 11 days every year, eventually Hanukkah would be in July, and that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And Sukkot, the fall harvest festival, would be in January. So how do we keep the holidays relatively in the time frame that they are supposed to reflect, because they exist in connection to nature? You can't, they're not just theoretical observances. They also have these agricultural and connections to them. So the way the calendar does that is that we have a leap year, and the leap year is there's a 19-year cycle, and every couple of years over that 19-year cycle, whereas in the Gregorian calendar that we are all familiar with, the leap year means we add one day of February 29th. But in the Jewish calendar, the leap year, we add a whole month. So every 2 or 3 years, we add in a whole month. And I'll write in the chat, we add in the month of Adar. So every couple of years, there'll be Adar 1 and Adar 2. That's the month of the holiday of Purim, which we're going to learn about all of these holidays. And you have Michael Strassfeld's book on the Jewish holidays, so you can jump in with any of those that you want to plunge in more immediately. So this is why the Jewish holidays, as they connect to the Gregorian calendar, will shift up to a month, but never more than that. So the beginning of the new year, next week, we're going to talk about Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the first holidays in the new year. So Rosh Hashanah could come as early as the very, very end of August, or as late as the last days of September, maybe early October, but never beyond that. And one of the things that Jews love to talk about is, oh, this year the holidays are early. Oh, this year the holidays are late. And, you know, people will joke that how come the holidays are never on time? They're always early or they're late. But the fact of the matter is, Rosh Hashanah is the 1st and 2nd of Tishrei. Yom Kippur is the 10th of Tishrei. The date doesn't change. It changes as we relate to it in the Gregorian calendar, but the Hebrew date stays the same. So they're never early or late. They're always on the exact same day every single year. But, you know, people like to joke about it. And so that's basically a little bit about how the calendar functions. And I want to plunge in and spend most of our time about Shabbat. Hopefully everybody received from Joan Neer some material that I sent to you about the holidays. And I think today she even sent you what I'd like you to have for next week about Rosh Hashanah. I'm very big on handouts. So you have in your syllabus always reading to do and journal entries to think about. Typically, if you are thinking about converting, you'll want to take those journal entries and share them with your sponsoring rabbi. If you're not thinking about converting, then you don't have to do them. They're just ideas that are there for you. But I'm going to start off here with this page, Introduction to Judaism, and it says Shabbat 2 and prayer. So I love this quote from Achad Ha'am, a Jewish philosopher, who said, "More than Israel has kept the Sabbath has kept Israel," because Shabbat practice is so fundamental in Jewish life. And I can certainly say that for me as a rabbi, I raised a family. I have 2 kids, now a bunch of grandkids also, but working the schedule of a rabbi, it was mission essential, as we would say in the Army, to have Shabbat every week, to have a little time to disconnect and recharge. One of the joys of being a Reform Jew, who was it who said that it was, somebody said that they had been in an Orthodox environment. Was that Noni? Who? Yes. you talked about being, and I'm sure that within Orthodoxy, there were very specific ways, things you did and didn't do on Shabbat. In the Reform world, we have a little bit more flexibility to make a Shabbat in a way that is meaningful for us, for our lives, for our families. But I really, really want to encourage you to find some Shabbat practice, because even more so in the modern world, the way we work 24/7, the way there's constant tugs on our time and energy, the opportunity to take a step back and breathe and be with family and with community. And I just can't stress it enough. And I can tell you, one of the things that has been very meaningful to me throughout my life, and it may seem kind of radical, is I don't watch television on Shabbat. Now, truth be told, I'm not a big television watcher anyway, so it's not like it's a huge sacrifice like it would be maybe for somebody who, that's a, primary joy in their life. But I raised 2 children to adulthood without them being allowed to watch TV on Shabbat. And I think that they would tell you that they didn't always love it, but it was great for family life, because it meant we would go for a walk and we would play games and we would talk and relax and be focusing on each other and not focusing on a screen. So I want to just encourage you to think about that specifically, even if it's maybe just for Friday night. Just, we know Shabbat starts. Oh, so when we talk about calendar, the Jewish day begins at sundown. The reason for that is because the Torah tells us in the story of creation, and there was evening and there was morning the first day, and there was evening and there was morning the second day. So the day begins at sundown. So Shabbat, of course, begins on Friday night at sundown. And you can download onto your calendar the URJ, the Union for Reform Judaism, has its own calendar app. There's a website called hebcal.com, Hebrew calendar, but I'm going to just pull up so it's called, let's see, how do we, I just want to show you the front page. No. So it's called, I can't get it to be big, but it's called Reform Luach. I think there's actually a charge for it. I think it's like $3.99, but you could go to hebcal.com for free and download all of the Jewish holidays and Torah readings. And if you put where you live, it will tell you what time Shabbat begins and ends. So you might consider some calendar app that will, that's a very easy way to just put a toe into the Jewish world, that every day you see what the Hebrew date is. So for example, let's see, today is the 23rd of Shabbat. So it means we're winding down the Hebrew month. Let's have one more opening quote from Abraham Joshua Heschel, a 20th century Jewish thinker. He says it this way: 6 days a week we wrestle with the world, bringing profit from the earth. On the Sabbath, we especially care for the seed of eternity planted in the soul. The world has our hands, but our soul belongs to someone else. 6 days a week, we seek to dominate the world. On the 7th day, we try to dominate the self. So I think that is beautifully put, very meaningful for us in the world today. And if you look under important considerations, you see the 2 biblical texts where we learn about the mitzvah of Shabbat. One is from the book of Exodus, one is from the book of Deuteronomy. you can read those on your own. But then I had a question: what do these texts have in common? What are the differences? What they have in common is that they both say that you should work 6 days a week and rest on the 7th. And we often forget that part about work. You know, it's good to be productively employed, to contribute something to the world. So just as it's a mitzvah to rest, it's also a mitzvah to bring whatever talents and skills we have to working in the world. The reason for the Sabbath is a little different in Exodus and in Deuteronomy. In the book of Exodus, the reason that we're told why should we observe the Sabbath? Because God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th day. So if we say we are made in the image of God, we'll have a class on theology and talk more about what that means. If we're made in God's image, God rests on the 7th day, we should rest on the 7th day. And the second reason from Deuteronomy is, remember that you were a slave in Egypt and Adonai brought you out with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. So what does it mean to be a free person? And what's the difference between being free and being a slave? Essentially and fundamentally, it's who controls your time. When you're a slave, you don't control your time. Somebody else tells you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, not necessarily why to do it. When you are a free person, you get to make decisions about how you spend your time. So part of our Shabbat observance is demonstrating that we are the masters of our own time. We get to decide how we spend our time. And, you know, at a time when there's a temptation to be slaves to technology, slaves to our work, to be able to assert that control once a month, I think is huge. So the next question is, what activities are permitted and prohibited on Shabbat? And again, I just want you to have a little sense of what an Orthodox perspective looks like. So in the Orthodox universe, there are 39 activities that are identified as being involved in building the Mishkan, which was the portable tabernacle in the wilderness. The Israelites left Egypt and wandered for 40 years in the wilderness and had a portable sanctuary that they could pack up and move with them. And there's a lot of discussion in the book of Exodus about the construction of that project. So the rabbis say every activity that was used to build sacred space are the things that we don't do when we're trying to create a sacred time. So what's just interesting about that is that in the Orthodox understanding, then, what work is has nothing to do with subjectively what feels like work to us. So there's a whole list there on page 2 that you can see, you know, dyeing, baking, shearing wool, spinning, harvesting, etc., lighting a fire. All of those activities are prohibited on Shabbat. So what I really would like you to look at then is on page 3, Rabbi Art Green talks about 10 commandments for Shabbat in a contemporary world. So does anybody have the document in front of you who could do some reading?
I do.
I see Eva and Ashley. Ashley, if you would read 1 to 5, and then we'll ask Eva to read 6 to 10.
Gotta unmute it. So number 1, stay at home and spend quality time with family and friends. Number 2, celebrate with others at the table in the synagogue or with those who can best share appreciation of God's world. 3, study or read something that will edify, challenge, or make you grow. 4, be alone, take some time for yourself, review your week, ask yourself where you are in your life. 5, mark the beginning and the end of the sacred time with candle lighting and Kaddish on Friday evening. I don't know how to say that word, sorry.
Oh, and it's pronounced in Hebrew Havdalah. Most of the time you'll hear people say it with more of an English pronunciation, Havdalah.
Havdalah, okay, on Saturday night.
Is a service of, just as Shabbat begins with candle lighting, there's a ceremony of ending Shabbat with Havdalah on Saturday night, typically when there are 3 stars visible in the sky.
Okay.
But in case it's a cloudy night, you can look on your calendar app and it will tell you what time Havdalah is wherever you are.
Excellent.
Good.
And I'm reading 6 as well, or stopping at 5?
You're stopping at 5. So you are done, and Eva's going to pick up.
So 6, we have don't do anything you have to do for your work life. This includes obligatory reading, fulfilling unwanted social obligations, homework for children, and preparing for work. 7, don't spend money. The atmosphere of Shabbat is best protected by a complete separation from commercial culture. 8, don't do business. No calls to the broker, no paying bills. Relax, it can all wait. 9, don't travel. This refers especially to long distances involving traffic, airports, hotel check-ins, or other similarly depersonalizing commercial situations. Stay free of encounters in which people are likely to tell you to have a nice day. 10, don't use commercial or canned entertainment. Stay in situations where you're face-to-face with those around you rather than staring at the all-powerful screen.
Excellent, thank you. So let me just see, I want to comment on some of these, tell you what I am in violation of myself. Don't do anything you have to do for your work life. So I grew up conservative. When I was growing up, there were no women rabbis in conservative Judaism. The first female conservative rabbi was not ordained until 1985. So I knew I wanted to be a rabbi. I couldn't be a conservative rabbi at that time. But when I came to Arizona in 1987, I was the rabbi of Temple Beth Shalom in the East Valley, which is a conservative synagogue. So I spent a lot of my time in a conservative environment, which led me to a more traditional Shabbat practice. Conservative Judaism says you should only drive on Shabbat to and from synagogue. That's it. And that's all I did for many, 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 many years. And it was, and I never spent money. And I still, but you know, now I have more flexibility as a Reform rabbi in a Reform synagogue. So whereas when I was conservative, I would never think to go to a restaurant on Shabbat. The culture at Temple Chai is that services end at 7:15 and people very frequently go out to dinner together afterwards. And so that is something that I have absorbed into my life. I would now drive to a park, but I wouldn't drive to a shopping mall. So, you know, this is, I'm saying we each have to find what works for us personally. But, you know, we don't shop online on Shabbat either. My husband will make a big point that, you know, if he wants something, you know, I think that relax, it can all wait line is very critical. So I don't go to the grocery store. I don't go to the mall, as I said. And you know what? It's fine. You know, I'm lacking nothing. I can, you know, somehow it all gets done, and I get what I need. So let's talk about don't travel. So I said I was in the Army for 38 years, and you know, I didn't drive or travel on Shabbat. So I was in, my Army units were always very gracious to let me not come to drill on Saturday and make up that time elsewhere. And in 1993, I was in Korea. And we were scheduled to fly back from Korea on a Saturday. And my unit knew, you know, the rabbi's not flying on Shabbat. So they spent all this time putting a whole other travel itinerary together for me. And, you know, it was March, no, it was Pohang, Korea. Pohang to Guam, Guam to Honolulu, Honolulu to March Air Force Base, March Air Force Base to Phoenix. I get to Pohang, South Korea, and they tell me, oh, guess what? Your flight got rerouted. It's leaving 2 hours from here. You'll never make it. So I drive all the way back to Camp Humphreys, where my unit was. And I kind of had a little conversation with God and said, I really tried not to travel on Shabbos, but you know, this is what it is. So P.S. there was a mechanical problem with the flight. The entire unit was delayed, didn't get to leave till 10 o'clock Saturday night. But subsequently, I have made my peace, you know, particularly in the military, but even in my personal life, that, you know, sometimes to get where I want to go and need to go, I have to fly on Shabbat. And I don't love it, but I've made my peace with it. So I'm wondering what reactions anyone has to any of this. Is there something that resonates for you or not? And does anybody have a Shabbat practice currently that you would share?
Well, I liked hearing you speak about how you observe these and how you see them, because that made me view them in kind of a different way, less as like something you absolutely have to follow to the letter, or you kind of blown the whole thing. After hearing you speak of them, I really want to go through them and just kind of evaluate each one of them, because there are certain reactions I have to certain ones where either the first is, that's impossible, like not spending money, like I don't like to cook, how am I going to do this? So I, you know, is it really impossible, or do I just not like the idea that I might have to actually cook something on my own on that night? So is it impossible? Do I really just not want to? Is it something that, like you said, you would drive to a park, but not to a shopping mall? Is it something like that, where it is flexible in my life as far as what it means to me? Or is it something where when I really sit down and look at it, it has true value to just follow it to the letter, either true value spiritually, relationship, physically, whatever it is. So I definitely want to go through each of them and kind of sit with my initial feeling and kind of process that to see where that's coming from and where I come out on the other side as far as if it's feasible for me or not.
There's a Jewish teacher named Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan, and he had an expression that I really like. He said, the tradition has a vote, but not a veto. So we look to the tradition for guidance. That's not supposed to be an excuse to just let things go. We're supposed to explore them, learn about them, try them, find out why people think that this is meaningful. But if after all of that, it's not meaningful, then his suggestion was it's better not to do something that you find meaningless just because someone says that you have to do it. It has a vote, but not a veto.
I really like that. Thank you for sharing.
So moving down, if you looked in the book Living a Jewish Life, which is on your syllabus, Anita Diamond gives a whole list of home rituals that we do on Shabbat. And I want to just review those with you. And again, these are things that you can try taking on your own. So the first thing is giving tzedakah. So you're not supposed to spend money on Shabbat. The last thing you do is give tzedakah. Tzedakah is often translated as charity. It's really not quite charity, because charity is something charity comes from the Greek root caritas, which is heart. We give charity because we feel moved to give. The word tzedakah or tzedakah comes from the root tzedek, which is justice. We give tzedakah because it is the right and just thing to do. It would be great if we have a great feeling about it also, but just because you don't feel moved to give doesn't mean you're not obligated to give. So kind of the last thing we do with money before Shabbat, if you don't have a tzedakah box at home, that's a nice thing to make or to acquire. And then when your tzedakah box gets full, you can decide where you would like to donate that money based on values that are important to you. And I'll tell you one practice that my husband and I have is when we make a bet with each other about something, which not that we're big betting people or we do that regularly, but like, for example, recently I told him that a certain book was in one place and he thought it was in a different place, making a face at me now, in a different place. I won that bet. You did not win that bet. I won the bet. So we bet for tzedakah. So he had to put money in the tzedakah box. So then, of course, blessing the candles. And I did give you a sheet that had the prayer for lighting the Shabbat candles. I'm sure it's in Living a Jewish Life as well. So we light the candles, and it's customary that we circle them with our hands 3 times and then cover our eyes and say the blessing. I'll sing it for you. It's Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So why this business of covering the eyes, lighting the candles? It's a very beautiful practice where, we cover our eyes so we can focus on the prayers, so we can add our own prayers for the week. But really it comes from a very practical consideration. So we saw that one of the things you're not supposed to do on Shabbat is light a fire. So if we, and in Jewish tradition, we always say a blessing first and then perform the action. So if we said the blessing, then it's now become Shabbat, and I can't light my candles because I can't light a fire on Shabbat. So what do? We light the candles and then we cover our eyes and say the blessing and open our eyes, and it's like, oh, the candles are lit. It's like magic. So if you don't own Shabbat candles, another nice thing to acquire, some Shabbat candlesticks. If you have children who live at home, it's customary that we bless the children. And then you'll see number D, I said, expressing appreciation for loving partners. Again, Noni, I'm sure you saw this in the Orthodox world. In the Orthodox world, this moment in our Shabbat practice is Eshet Chayil. So the husband traditionally reads in praise of his wife, Proverbs chapter 31, that talks about all of the wonderful qualities of his wife and all of the wonderful things that she does to sustain the household. And I've sort of moved that into a more gender neutral format, that if you're lucky enough to have a loving partner in your life, say something nice to them. Just, take a moment and tell them something that you appreciate about them. We then have, and I left out the Kiddush. So then we have the prayer over the wine, and you've got that in your handout as well. And ritual washing of our hands, and then eating the challah. And so a student one time asked, what's the practice of braiding the challah? Why is the challah braided? And I found this teaching from Rick Dinitz. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but all kinds of different explanations potentially for why we braid the challah. I would strongly encourage you to figure out a way to make a Shabbat dinner a part of your home life. Make an effort to have a nicer meal, to invite friends once you're able to invite friends, to have meaningful conversational discussion at the table. If you want to talk about the Torah portion, or just, you can get all kinds of lists of conversational questions. I'm very partial to something called the ungame. I do this with my students, and there's an ungame for couples, there's one for families, there's one for all ages. It's not a particularly Jewish thing. I also have this thing called the Shabbat box of questions that has Shabbat questions, but just, I'll just read you a couple. This is the families version because I have it here because I use it with my B'nai Mitzvah students. So I'll just give you an idea. So what is something that worries you? Tell about the kind of music you really like and why. Say something about nagging. Complete the statement. My favorite beverage is blank. So just, try to have some interesting conversation, take time at your table. If you can get people to sit down without their cell phones and next to them, that's great too. You can do some singing. You can just try to make a nice meal. And so then we sit down, we have a relaxing meal. There is a blessing after the meal. Traditionally in Judaism, it's a bit long, but even if it's good just to, if you get there, I would say Dayenu, that's enough. And then let's talk about a little bit about Havdalah. I think I'm going to just take 30 seconds and go bring my Havdalah stuff so I can show and tell that for you.
Eva, that's a lovely Matisse you have behind you.
Thank you.
I'm a big art nerd, so I was dying to mention it.
Well, I appreciate it.
So for Havdalah, we also have a candle, but we have a candle that has multiple wicks. The prayer for Havdalah says, thank you, God, who creates the lights of the fire. And since it's lights plural, we have multiple wicks. on the candle. And then the rabbis say that on Shabbat, we get an extra soul. And when that soul leaves us, we're sad. So we also have a spice box, and these come in all kinds of varieties. But a lot of times people use cinnamon and cloves. But I mean, you could just open a container of spices from your cabinet also. But the idea is that we're sad that this extra soul is leaving us, and we smell these fragrant spices, and it cheers our soul. And then also a cup of wine. And I while I was in the same cabinet, I pulled out my my Shabbat box of questions. So we'll often pull these out if we have guests. And let's just see what a few Shabbat, it's cute. Look, see, it's got like challah and candles. So, oh, it's not specifically Jewish. Who do you admire and why? Let's see, another good one. What person in your life truly practices what they preach? Anyway, just a few ideas for how to make your Shabbat dinner more meaningful. And then I gave you a document that says honoring tradition, embracing modernity, further options. So I don't know if you can find that sheet. I have it labeled 5A. I added it in. Okay, so let's see, what are our further options? A special prayer or reading. You could write your own Shabbat thought or prayer, read a poem or a relevant article. Each person from preschoolers to grandparents completes this phrase, something good happened to me this week, it was, or something you're proud of during the week, something you're grateful for. And then there's some more kind of interesting discussion starters. Or reflecting on events of the past week. Of course, there are services on Friday night. We have special psalms that we begin the service with. Some of the service is very standard. Some of it is special to Shabbat. If you can get to services or Zoom services, that's great. And Saturday morning, Temple Chai doesn't have a weekly Saturday morning service anymore. We used to. If we have a bar or bat mitzvah, then we have services for the bar or bat mitzvah. And I think about once a month, we have a congregational Shabbat morning service. And when they're in person, anybody is welcome to come. Otherwise, they're on the live stream. On Saturday morning, we take out the Torah scroll and we read from the Torah. So that is a special thing to make study part of our Shabbat practice at the synagogue. And every week, there's a weekly Torah reading. So when we talk about the holidays, we'll talk about in the fall, there's a holiday called Simchat Torah. We start reading the book of Genesis. And let's see, did you have in your vocabulary? I gave you some vocabulary at the beginning. Yes, if you look in your new vocabulary, you'll see the word parsha, which means the portion. So every week there's a Torah portion that the whole Jewish community all over the world is reading. And you can sign up at the URJ website. They have 10 minutes of Torah that they'll send you for free every week, or in the Temple Chai weekly bulletin, there's a link. Click here, you can get commentaries on the Torah reading for that week. But we start with Genesis. And we go all the way through Deuteronomy in an annual cycle. The Parsha is typically anywhere from 1 to 6 chapters of the Torah: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Right now, we're in the book of Exodus in the Torah reading. This week's Torah reading is called Mishpatim. And so one of my other favorite apps here, I have an app called Pocket Torah. And this is cool. So it has a list of the Torah readings. And if I look up Mishpatim, it tells me it starts with Exodus 21:1 to 21:19. And check this out. So it'll show it to you in Hebrew. And then you can put the translation on and it'll show it to you with translation. And then you can put the tikkun on and it will show you what it looks like in the actual Torah. And then, let's see, how can I?
It's quite possibly the niftiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and yeah, so it's called Pocket Torah. So that's cool. So I don't want to overwhelm you too much. What I'd like to do is take just another 5 minutes or so and hear it. What might you aspire to? What is one Shabbat practice that you might like to take on?
I think one practice that I want to take on is the gathering of family and friends. I think that's something that we both aspire to do.
Beautiful.
I think it's probably the easiest because it's always good to be with family and friends.
Beautiful.
For me, I think I lean a lot into the don't do business, that it's really easy for me to get wrapped up in work as a workaholic myself. And so there will always be more work. The list never ends, but now's the time to rest. I really like that.
Beautiful. I hope you can bring that to fruition. I struggle with it too, because, you know, there is always so much to do, but you know, if any day of the week, I try to, you know, maybe read some fiction or just, you know, something that's more for me in the summer months, get a swim in.
My sister leads the Shabbat prayers, and I've gotten pretty good at the basic Baruch Atah, Adonai, etc. But I'm not very good at reading it. I certainly can't read it in Hebrew. And when it comes to anything more complex than the first couple of lines, I get kind of lost. So I really want to get a bit better at just the basic prayers, I suppose.
Yeah. Do you have it in transliteration?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, nothing wrong with reading it from the transliteration for now. And, you know, the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it.
I'm drawn to kind of like what Ali said, but what for me, I often like think of the weekends as my time to do everything that's not work related, but still feels like work, like household chores and like that kind of thing, ordering stuff online. And so I love the idea of preserving Shabbat for really just resting and doing activities that feel nourishing and just not trying to make myself be a responsible whatever on that period of time.
Yeah, I love that. Just, you know, make some time for yourself and your own spiritual development.
I think for me, because my family is so big and all over the place, I would like to really try to have more family time and not be so busy with football or running the kids here or there, just being more in the moment.
Excellent. So if there are no further questions or comments, I think we'll wrap up. It's been a lot for our first time together. And next week, our topic is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. You should already have that material in your inbox from me. Plus, you've got your reading from the texts in the syllabus. And I'm sorry that we won't be in person, so I won't be able to physically give each of you a copy of the prayer of actually we call it the Machzor, the book that we read on the high holidays. It has a special name, but I brought home a copy so that I can share with you a little bit of some of the most important prayers. And I hope you have a Shabbat Shalom this week, and I will be very interested to hear if anything changes or shifts for you in your Shabbat practice as a result of this conversation. You should feel free to reach out to me anytime. You have my email address. Drop me an email. I'm pretty responsive to email, so just absolutely don't hesitate. I'm your teacher and I want to be here for you.
Thank you for your time. It was wonderful.
My
Thank you, bye-bye.
pleasure. Great to meet all of you. Thank you for sharing a little bit, and have a good rest of the week.
You too. Good night.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye now.